what is important is that you have to go into any project writing knowing what you're going to be looking for. And that means the hard work has to come at the beginning. Nobody puts up a 10-story tower block and without knowing exactly how many floors are going to be and what's going to be on each floor. And then, having done the design, you then look for the material that's going to populate each of those floors and each of those rooms on each floor. And that's exactly what I do. So, I go in knowing that this particular interview is going to be on chapter number 4, a lot about chapter 7, and a little bit about chapter 9, and so look, that there's no rule about doing oral history. Everybody does it in their own personal way, but there is a rule about life, and that is that if you begin with the end in mind, you're more likely to finish. If you are going into any project in which oral history is going to be one of your sources, or maybe the main source or only source, you need to know what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're going to just waste a lot of your time and other people's time.
Yeah. So what sort of brief will you give to these people that you select? And we assume that you're always looking for some sort of political balance, but do you give them a pretty detailed brief of what you're after? You've decided what you're
after. Never have time to give them a brief, and no one ever asks. Pretty much no one asks. Maybe 1 in 25. But they're busy people. I'm always doing more than one thing at the same time. I don't have time to really work it out.
But do they actually have to sign a consent form? Because it's sensitive material here.
The more you dramatize these interviews, the more you're going to get people worrying. So all these questions I did look at and would recommend people to look at by word of mouth by Joanna Papworth, my sadly deceased wife, who was seriously smart, and by her pedestrian fiancé at the time, me. And it's everything that all the questions are there, and there's no right answers. If you worry people too much, vex them by sending them questions in advance or sending them the material afterwards, it takes a lot of their time, and they'll start worrying about it, and it can become a hassle.
Yeah. So you don't send them a transcript afterwards, but would you check with them what you're going to use in the book?
If it's attributable in any way, yeah. I mean, if I'm wanting to quote that Abraham Lincoln said this, or indeed if it is material that only Abraham Lincoln could have known about, then I will check with it. In all the books, I've maybe hardly had anybody who's ever complained, because they may have been unhappy, but they haven't complained to me about it. So, you go in just as low key as possible.
Yeah, but you do all the interviews yourself, or do you have people that work for you?
I do pretty much all the interviews because the people will know me and trust me.
Sir Anthony, insofar as you are dealing with politically sensitive material, I wonder how far you feel you must set out to challenge the points of view that are being put across to you, or do you simply say, well, I'll let each individual have their say and sort of sum it up later in the way that I collate the material? I mean, do you challenge what people think and say?
Well, why would I not? And if it's not sensitive material, it's not worth having. It means it's already out there in the public record. And, a vast difference when I was first writing is now people, particularly special advisors, can't wait to get their version out into the press. So the day that on which we're speaking today is the day of a big Chancellor of the Exchequer announcement. Special advisors will be spinning, and others will be spinning against, all of them claiming to be at meetings and with versions of what happened or what was said. So, and then there'll be another barrage for the Sunday papers, who will have minute by minute, second by second accounts of everything that happened. It's I try and write when the passions of the moment are over and when no one's really got a particular incentive for spinning anything to me. And if I think they are, then I'll come back and I will I will press them back. But a very wise person who was my doctoral supervisor said to me, not just that no document is created without a reason, and this was part of the big debate at the time about, is oral evidence a waste of time? And, documents of the business. Well, what's, tripe? I mean, no document is created, no diary is created, no letters created, no minutes of meetings are created without a particular spin and purpose.
Yes.
And whatever that purpose is, it's not to give objective records for future historians and writers.
Yes.
So every document, so oral history has to be rigorously assessed, but it's not unique in that. All evidence has to be rigorously assessed.
Yeah. So just drawing towards a conclusion, I mean, when you reach your conclusions at the end of one of your political biographies, prime minister biographies, are you trying to draw down the different strands and reach a conclusion based on what people have told you? And how far does your own instinct take over at the end in the conclusions that you reach? Are you simply summing up what people say to you, or are you reaching something that's very much Sir Anthony Seldon's point of view at the end?
Well, I mean, I never think of myself as a sir, so that is one bit that's easy to deal with. Everybody writing is biased. Somebody writing about the Roman Empire, somebody writing about the Industrial Revolution will have heroes. Their heroes might be people who worked in the factories, or they might be great social reformers. But everyone's biased. There are two things we know about historians: they're all biased, and secondly, none of them think they're biased. And thirdly, if I can add a third, they think that rivals in the same field are hopelessly biased, and they'll go to great lengths to prove that in the academic literature. So, look, I have a sense I'm trying to get to the heart of what really mattered. What was the premiership about? What were the turning points? What were the sliding doors moments? How did it really work? What did the principal, the PM really want to do? What they tried to do? Why did that not happen? To what extent was it following a preordained path? What extent was it knocked off course, like Keir Starmer's has been by events? It's trying to get into the mind of the PM and the key moments. What was really important? I mean, on any one day, a prime minister will have 17 meetings. You can't write about 17 times 365 times the length of a premiership. You've got to be selective, and you've got to give people. I mean, every thesis, every essay, every article, every book is an artifice. It's giving you a version of the past, using the evidence and with the subjectivity of the creator of that.
You mentioned that in fact you don't get many complaints from the people you've interviewed. I just wonder if that's really the case, that you don't, when the book comes out and you reach your conclusions, do you not get emails of reservations about what you've done from people who are involved with very politically sensitive things.
Did people feel I had betrayed their trust in the interview?
I wasn't meaning that precisely.
But by naming them. So you are, one of the subjectivities is if you're writing a sequence, you're going to think if you trash people or get a reputation for being dishonest or unprincipled in the use of evidence, people won't trust you in the future. So that means that you're going to be cautious and careful. There's so many subjectivities. Look, but I don't get people coming back to me saying I have abused their trust. Sometimes they will in blogs. They'll be cross if they think that I've written in a way about their own role which differs from the role that they think they played. Generally, I will be light about people who can't answer back, officials and others, but I can be quite strong, very strong about the key figure, the Prime Minister, notably in Boris Johnson and in Liz Truss, and so I don't want to create unhappiness in the book. There's lots I leave out which would be personally injurious and hurtful to people. I mean, a lot of times people weren't very good at their job, and why would I want to say that? Unless it became really so significant in that it handicapped the Prime Minister and the administration's success in office. Yeah, look, I'm sure people are, the Boris Johnson team are very unhappy with the book I wrote about Boris Johnson. There's some in the Liz Truss team are, some in the Theresa May team were. I mean, that's going to happen. I'm very happy to be criticised for everything. I mean, there's so much that you can criticise my book for, but I would be proud of the criticism that I have not written a lot about things that are personally hurtful. And you also have to be careful of people who see you. Sometimes I worry about the people who really want to see me because they have an axe to grind. It's a bit like appointing people. You want to appoint the people who are not quite sure whether they really want to join your team. The best people are the ones you've really got to try and persuade a bit to talk to you, because and that's why civil servants, again, I'm going to go all the way back to the book by word of mouth, where actually it was published in 1983. Where I think they're by far the best witnesses why officials much better than ministers and much better than special advisors in general. Why? Because this was true of the civil service when there was much less churn. They really know and understand the subject. They see people come and go. They are watchers. They're acute observers. They're trained to observe and watch. They're less, they've got less skin in the game, and they're often, dare I say, slightly brighter than the ministers, and certainly more objective. And they're great witnesses. And they're observers. They know what the people before did, and they know what the people afterwards did. So they've got a sense of perspective.
And have you already started thinking about a Starmer at 10? I mean, is that in your head already?
Yeah, I mean, at some point I stop. My ideal would be to stop in 2029 when Keir Starmer stands down, or to write Starmer at 10, published just after that year. And that would then be 50 years of writing about prime ministers, from Thatcher in 79 to Starmer in 2029, and loving 10. I could then write a book about 10 at 10 over the 50 years, 10 prime ministers at number 10. And that would then bring to a conclusion my bit of my life writing about that, at which point I would then go back to my first love and be selected to play in the up in the front of the forwards for Chelsea, because I think they've suffered the fact that I've taken a sabbatical writing these books. Look, it's lovely to talk to you.